Well, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. You're watching Viewpoint with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Well, the Commerce Secretary, Sunil Barthwal, is leading a task force aimed at boosting India's textile exports. The task force, which had its first meeting on the 10th of June 2025, aims to increase textiles exports to $100 billion by 2030-31. This initiative involves a collaborative effort between the Department of Commerce, Ministry of Textiles, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, Export Promotion Councils, industry associations and exporters, basically bringing all the stakeholders together. Now, the discussions during the first meeting included strategies for increasing exports, expanding market share in key global destinations like the US, UK, EU, and also tackling sectoral challenges. India is currently the fourth largest exporter of textiles globally. In this edition of Viewpoint, we will analyze how to further boost our textile exports. Joining me on the program today are Ajay, Shankar, former Secretary, Govt of India; Shubhra, Trade Advisor, Ministry of Textiles, and she holds several other charges as well. We'll talk to her about exactly where we are with regards to textiles exports, and also joined by Kamakshi Verma, public policy expert and AVP, Primus Partners. Now, this organization came up with a roadmap earlier this year to propel textile shipments to over $100 billion over the next 5 years. Thank you to my guests for joining me on this edition of Viewpoint. Shubhraji, let me start the program with you first. Let's first try and understand, the state of textiles exports, really, the state of textiles itself as far as India is concerned.
I would say we are, as you have already mentioned, that we already hold a global rank in textile exports. There is all the time there has been a trade surplus. Our imports are far less than our exports. And in exports also, we are exporting to major economies. It is not that we are the largest trade partner is USA, to whom we export goods worth 10 billion in textiles, followed by EU, UAE, Bangladesh, and everybody. I mean, in fact, we export to 168 countries. And the good part of textiles is that it is pan-India. Almost 500 districts of India are making textiles and exporting in some form or the other. So this is how important it is, and importance also comes from the fact that this employs 45 million people directly. 4.5 crore लोग आपके यहाँ पे हम लोग employ करते हैं, and 50% of them are women. So the importance of it in terms of value, in terms of employment, in terms of what it can add to the social structure of the country is immense.
Absolutely. I mean, 50% of the workforce, from constituting women, as well as, the kind of impact that it has on the social sector is huge. And that's how textiles can be boosted even further to ensure that everyone is part of this particular pie, so to speak. Now, Mr. Shankar, let me bring you into the picture now. How do you look at textiles exports over the years? It has been growing. We are in a sweet spot at the moment. What more needs to be done, and how do we take it forward from here?
I would first of all agree with what has been said earlier. Textiles have the potential of creating a lot of jobs. And I think we should give it the highest priority because it creates jobs all across India. And we do have a challenge of creating enough jobs, especially at the lower end of the spectrum. So it does deserve the highest priority. Now, within the subject of textile and what to do, my view is that we should look at increasing the share of garment exports. So our attempt should be to not export raw cotton, not export fabric, but to export garments. Now, that's a structural change in our export basket we should aim at achieving over the next 5, 7, 8 years. Because if you export garments or finished goods, you create more jobs. The other change we should attempt is that in the global market, our cotton exports are quite visible. But on man-made fiber and converting them into garments and exporting them, we are a modest player. So we need a good interaction with our industry players to see how they could grow into becoming garment exporters of using synthetic fabric for men's suits, for ladies' formal dresses and things like that. Now that is an area where success can be achieved, should be achieved, and I think we need to understand where the problem lies. Now maybe we could need to create a dedicated textile park or an SEZ where synthetic man-made fibers could come in without difficulty and then processed and exported. I mean, there is a Brandeis SEZ in Andhra Pradesh where it is an SEZ, but it's the only one. And maybe the government should come in and set up the SEZ. And one other suggestion I would make is that if we can create workers' housing in the garment exporting SEZs, then our producers will get a slight advantage in terms of competitiveness. Because today most of the garment work is done in, say, in Noida or Bangalore. Now these are areas where living costs are high, rentals are high, and the garment industry globally works on very, very thin margins. So if we could do something about creating textile parks with workers' housing, dormitory accommodation, then our industry would get the slight edge it needs in terms of costing. Because globally it's a very, very price-sensitive market and margins are way for thin.
Absolutely. Okay, points very well taken.
Two broad ideas I would suggest at this stage.
Wonderful.
And one other
Please go ahead.
thing which is important, but that's at the macro level, in fact, two things are important. One is that we are negotiating an FTA with the EU. The sooner we do it, the better it is, because then we will get zero import duty access to the European market, which as an integrated market is as large, if not larger, than the US market. And one other dimension which in these discussions doesn't get talked about at all is the real exchange rate. Now, India pays a very heavy price for not maintaining a real exchange rate. It allows the exchange rate to appreciate due to market forces, and market forces have other reasons which lead to the real exchange rate appreciation. So if somehow a consensus could emerge that the government and the RBI agree that we will not let the real exchange rate appreciate, it would do a lot of good to domestic manufacturing, value addition and exports.
Points taken. Let me take the points that you're making forward as well and, put them across to Shubhraji in just a bit. But let me bring in Kamakshi into the picture as well, who's been listening to the other two panelists patiently. Kamakshi, your organization has come up with a comprehensive roadmap really with regards to what needs to be done as far as trade exports are concerned. So, what are the findings? What does your roadmap really suggest?
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. So I'll just start by saying that, as a land of white gold, our ready-made garments and cotton textiles are winning hearts globally. And India definitely, as said before, has a lot of regional strengths. I mean, our textiles are pan across the country. We have regional strength with Surat synthetic fibers, Tirupur knitwear cluster, Telangana's handloom, Maharashtra Ichalkaranji's powerloom. However, there are particular challenges that the textile sector faces, for which we had initially come up with a report which talks about 5-6 major challenges and how do we really address those challenges. So if I have to talk about the challenges very quickly, I'll bring one of the major challenges that the industry faces is a higher production cost, which Sir just mentioned. The India's standard allowed minute for garmenting, for instance, is 5 to 6 rupees, which is 3 rupees when we speak about Bangladesh, which is our biggest competitor per se. So if it takes 20 minutes to make a t-shirt, in Bangladesh it will cost somewhere around 60 rupees, which in India will cost around 100 rupees. So this really makes it a less cost competitive country per se. Second important challenge that we face is with respect to skilled manforce. Now, limited skill readiness of the workforce vis-a-vis the global scenario is a major challenge. Approximately around 15% of textile manufacturing has received formal training in India. So this vis-a-vis other countries, say Germany or Vietnam, is very low. Third important challenge, and if we see Vietnam structure, which contributes almost $40 billion exports, is the vertical integration of the supply chain. Now, India has a fragmented supply chain, which leads to increased cost and sectors inefficiency. So I think this is a very important factor, which I understand the government has brought up PM Mitra Park, which integrates the entire supply chain. There are a lot of initiatives being undertaken for this, but this is again a challenge. So how can we address? I think the one very, very important factor is bringing technology in place. Use of IoT, use of Industry 4.0 can definitely reduce the operational wastage of the sector by 10 to 15%, which again, Tirupur as a cluster is doing. They have used AI technology to reduce the productional inefficiency. So that is one. Second, like Sir just mentioned, we need to align free trade agreements. And I will say not just EU, but with UK, with Canada. These are countries where if we negotiate our free trade agreements quickly with US, EU, Canada, this will definitely give more market to the textile sector.
Sure.
Third sector is, because I mentioned about the standard allowed minute, which is high, is giving operational subsidy to the garmenting sector in terms of fiscal incentives. It can be, like, for example, a lot of states like Madhya Pradesh, they're giving a reimbursement of employee contribution approximately around 6,000 per month for a period of 5 years. So, I mean, these are ways in which these costs can come down. So these are 3-4 things which I feel are very important for the sector to grow.
Okay, points very well taken. Let me take the points that both panelists have made forward and bring in Shubhraji into the picture as well. A couple of aspects, Shubhraji. Higher production cost is one, of course, that both the panelists have mentioned, and how do we address that? Let's also look at, we are at about $37 billion at the moment. How do we scale up to $100 billion? Any initiatives, any schemes, anything that the government is working on and putting in place to ensure that this gets done?
Yes, definitely, because this target of 100 billion, we had taken it, we had kind of taken it upon ourselves along with the industry, and industry very happily agreed with it, is the 100 billion. And out of that, as Sir has already mentioned, 40 billion target is by garmenting. Why garmenting? Because first of all, it's a value-added products that's going to fetch us a higher value. Plus, it gives us more employment opportunities. For 1 crore investment of a rupee, 50 to 60 people employment gets created. Now, it's no other industry does it for 1 crore worth of a rupee. So that's actually value for money. So therefore, our focus is also on garmenting. So out 100 billion are going to come from the 40 billion contributed by the garmenting industry. And in the garmenting industry, presently, it is a majorly by the cotton, because we are a cotton growing country and we have been very confident in cotton, and we want that confidence to continue. So for that, the cotton mission has come about. So we are going to be producing more and more fiber, because let us understand, whatever is the fiber production presently, we need to double it to reach 100 billion. And for that, the growth of fiber will come from cotton, but limited growth, because it's produced from the soil. So there is a limitation of growth. So the maximum growth will come from man-made fiber. Now, man-made fiber, when we talk about, it's about polyester, viscose, acrylic, nylon. So in polyester is the biggest player in this. Yes, we are in consultation with DCPC, we are in consultation with the industry. All of them, the polyester industry tells us that they are putting in investment, and by the end of this year, we will be completely independent for the polyester fiber sector. Now then comes the yarn, which adds the value. Let me tell you, we are already the largest spindlets in India, largest in the world. That's the most efficient segment of the value chain. And let me also tell you why I don't like to compare with Bangladesh or anything, is because I am present in the whole of value chain. India is present in the whole of value chain. You must have heard PM's favorite, what the slogan when he said 5F. So we are actually in 5F, right from starting from, you know, fiber and farm and factory and foreign and everything. So we are there everywhere. My neighboring countries are not. So I am operating at a different level, taking care of my fiber producers, taking care of my yarn producers, taking care of fabric producers and the garmenting. And in between comes man-made made-ups, home textiles, and another sunrise sector which has come and it's extremely interesting is technical textile. The penetration of technical textiles presently is very low. So the 20-25% growth is going to come from there. And that's what the target is also. In the man-made sector, that they are going to contribute almost 21 billion when I am 100 billion. So like in 140 is by the ready-made garments, 20 is by the cotton textiles, 21 is by the man-made textiles, and rest are all of them are the traditional like silk, jute and wool and other things. In those we are very small. So what we are doing is already there is we are not cost competitive because there is a fragmentation and there is a lot of logistics involved in the country. To address that, we had projects which were like small textile parks. Now we are coming up with very big textile parks, which has already been mentioned, PM Mitra parks. And already seven sites have been selected. We are already working based on the state's inputs on the smaller parks, because there can't be 1,000-acre parks more in the country, and sometimes it's a land and employment and etc. etc. So we are already working on the smaller park, probably on a 300-acre and a 500-acre. That was the popular demand. So India ministry is already working whether we should create more and more of such parks. Now what happens in a park? It's like a textile township. So you have the entire value chain at one place. Presently, just try to understand, fiber is grown somewhere, goes for spinning somewhere else, fabric is made somewhere else, in the weaving is done somewhere else, and the garmenting is done somewhere else. So actually when fiber is traveling throughout the country, it's a big country, logistic cost becomes like almost like 14%. So park takes care of that logistics cost. And then they were talking about the skilling. So ministry also has got a lot of skilling programs going on. We have a Samarth scheme which we are running. And in the man-made sector, let me also tell you about the production linked incentive scheme, which is only for MMF, and it has been highly successful for technical textiles. In that we are making speciality fiber, we are making glass fiber investment has come in, carbon fiber investment has come in, and we are also making, you know, automobile belts and airbags. And one very interesting sector which has come about is hygiene products. We are, because of the population and, the other factors, we were importing a lot of hygiene products, including baby diapers and adult diapers and napkins, etc. All of it, the scenario is changing. We are making so much of hygiene products that now a stage has come where we are starting to export, and we have started exporting it. So all these factors are, there is a very huge shift of the focus and as to what has to be done. So that takes care of the vertical integration. Already we have the vertically integrated plants. We have the largest exporter, one of the largest exporter is an integrated person, because there is a slight challenge. Spinning is very good, yarn is very good, fabric is very good. Then the problem comes probably in somewhere in the processing. So a lot of investment is coming in the processing. So once processed fabric, good quality processed fabric is available, then it's a matter of stitching and making garments. And we are such a huge country, and there will always be skilled labor available and then skilled labor. So, and garmenting is something which will require human intervention.
Right.
Robots will not be able to make it. So there will be a stitching by the humans. So I keep telling the whole world, you will have to come back to India. There is no place. Up to 2070, I will have young population, working population, and highest working population in the world.
Right.
And these garments, we are going to keep wearing clothes, because there is no time is going to come which is going to be reduced. So the whole world has, and we are the stable supplier. Look at our political situation in the entire world. When everybody is disturbed, we are still a stable supplier.
Sure.
So I see a lot of scope, the chance and the possibility which is right here in textile in India.
Absolutely. So the scope is large. India is making for the world. India is not only self-reliant, but we are also ensuring that we are providing the world a lot as well, as far as textiles are concerned, is what Shubhra ji is suggesting. And the approach really is that we would like to take everyone along, and it's a holistic approach, unlike the other countries. Mr. Shankar, let me come back to you now. Let's look ahead. And, as we are achieving or trying to achieve this goal of $100 billion of export in textiles, what is it that is desired going forward?
There are a couple of things which I think government may like to consider doing, which it has not been doing till date. So one is that we don't have the scale in our garment industry to become suppliers to a large global brand, because we just don't have the volumes. So if somebody who's running a major chain, say like Zara or Uniqlo, wants, say, 1 lakh suits, men's suits for office wear, I don't think India has the capacity to produce that. Now, this capacity can emerge very quickly, but the entrepreneurs do not have the ability to scale up, because A, they don't have the land, B, they don't have the capital, and both they cannot acquire quickly enough. So if our textile parks are large enough, and where government spends the money to create the infrastructure as well as a place where, working sheds can be created where you produce 50,000 suits a year, and makes that available at a rent rather than purchase, so that if I have an export order, I can rent it and produce it. The other thing is that I should be able to get both equity and debt, irrespective of the normal prudential norms, if I have a large export order. So in the great days of export growth in Korea, China, of course, everybody keeps saying for 30 years they print money and that's how they succeed. But essentially, if you're succeeding in the export market, the risk on giving money for equity and debt is very low. So in India, if we bring about that structural transformation, that if as an exporter I am growing at 20% per annum, debt and equity should come to me from some dedicated financial institution without the 2:1 debt equity loan. And the third thing, which I had mentioned earlier, I repeat, that till we have workers housing in large dormitories, housing 40,000 people, we will find it very difficult to achieve the aim we want. And let's go back 100 years. We were a great exporter, we were a great manufacturing hub of textiles, a globally competitive industry then. And every one of the large mills in Bombay, Ahmedabad, Calcutta had workers' housing. A lot of that land is being redeveloped with enormous profits to those who are doing redevelopment. So why can't we today develop parks with workers' housing, which are dormitory accommodation run by somebody else? Because in reality, no garment exporter would like to take the headache of managing workers' housing. Managing his factory is tough enough for him. So unless the government steps in with some kind of an SPV which manages rental dormitory housing for a mobile workforce, achieving the scale may be a bit more challenging.
Okay. And Kamakshi, coming back to you now. So, where do we go from here? What more needs to be done?
First thing which comes to my mind, as very rightly mentioned by ma'am here, on technical textiles, I feel very similar to what Government of India had mentioned and come out with the National Technical Textile Missions. States should have their own state technical textile mission that focuses primarily on research and development. Because for technical textiles, R&D is a very, very important component. And to pioneer this, Maharashtra was the first state to come up with its own Maharashtra Technical Textile Mission very recently, where they talk about how they will be collaborating with different center of excellence, including Bitra, Atira, Sasmira, other center of excellence. So that is one very, very important component, because research will remain very important. And as we're moving towards sustainable ecosystem, a lot of companies have started practicing waterless dyeing, have started practicing other sustainable manufacturing practices, which again needs a lot of research. So that is one. Second, as I had mentioned before, technology is very, very important. And even in these clusters that we are creating, technology can play a very important role. For instance, 3D printing and predictive analysis AI-based machines, which Japan and other countries have started manufacturing. China is using that extensively. Even in India, Tripur cluster uses AI-based technology, which does predictive analysis, which actually reduces the operational inefficiencies of a machine by 10 to 15%. So that will become very, very important. Third, with respect to MSMEs, the scalability that was being talked about, can government look at a model which agriculture had looked out as farmer producing organizations, FPOs? Can we have a textile MSME based such organization or such cooperative arrangement that can look after the MSME sector, because they don't have the cost to get these such technologies. And textile as a sector, I feel 90% of the machines are imported. So one very important aspect to also look here is how machinery manufacturing can start happening in India. I mean, that will definitely reduce the cost, and how MSMEs can gain from it. Another important aspect to how we were just discussing on garmenting, there's a very interesting concept of hub and spoke model, which some areas are using. There's a mother unit that is based in the center, which has certain child units, like 10 to 15 child units, which are there in villages. How this helps, the capital cost to this is very less, because most of the child units are based out of big cargo sheds. They transform that into a workable environment,
right,
which has all garmenting units. So the capital cost reduces. You give the direct access of employment to women and to other regional areas which people might not be able to travel far for employment. So this is in a way providing employment at your doorsteps. So this is another very interesting model which, if actually streamlined in a public domain, can really help. So
Absolutely.
These were 3 points.
Sure. Okay, time to get quick closing comments now from all the panelists with the best way forward and what next. I've got about 3 minutes left on the program, so in 1 minute each, please. Concluding remarks, starting first with you, Shubhraji.
Yes, I think much has been said about MSME, fragmented, yes, but they are our strength also. So already they are working in a cluster model. We are encouraging cluster model. In fact, let me tell you that Tripur cluster is world famous cluster, and it's an organic cluster. Government didn't do anything. Government was an enabler, but rest of the thing the industry took care of it. And they could be like one unit may not be able to produce those lakhs of pieces, but a group of companies, smaller companies sitting at one place can address those demands, because MSMEs are there to stay and we don't want to wish them away, because that's how India's social and economic structure is. And technical textile, like just now it was mentioned, states are already coming up. Maharashtra has announced their state technical policy. In fact, Tamil Nadu has already announced that the park which is going to be coming up, which is there in Virudnagar, that it is going to be the populated by the technical textile producers. So already states are realizing that this is what is happening. And government coming up with SEZ and all, SEZ we did try, but it's not a very successful model. Therefore, a lot of things are now happening on the PPP mode. Let the industry tell us what it is required, and let's see how we can engage and do hand holding and take it forward. So this is what I would say. And going forward, yes, again we will focus on the fibers, we'll focus on the technical textile, we'll focus on reducing the logistics cost of it. We will focus on making the system more seamless, so more investment comes. Now on the investment front, some of the engagements with the developed countries, like even the neighboring country Japan,
right,
who alone is a 30 billion buyer of textile, and we are not, our percentage in their total market is very less. So we have been talking to them, and we said, okay, fine, if you cannot get those numbers from here, how about investing, putting up a plant in India, make for India and make for the world.
Right.
Like, we are trying to do JVs, we are inviting many countries. Taiwan wants to give us technology, Qatar wants to invest in India, because this is where the growth is.
Right.
So, in just another couple of years, you will see a lot of new things happening and the bigger and better things happening.
Wonderful, wonderful to hear that. Mr. Shankar, in 30 seconds, closing comments.
Ambition to catch up with China's present level of exports in 5-7 years. I think we can do it.
Okay, yes,
and
I like
a much more active role for government to reach out to global majors, to get the value addition in India. Apple is a good example.
Wonderful.
They have become one of the largest employers of people in India, and it's one big brand. So let us focus on 4 or 5 global brands. Zara is one, Uniqlo is other, and there are many others, H&M. And also in synthetic garments, we must become a major producer for the global market.
I like the optimism, and yes, we can. And finally, please close the show for us, Kamakshi, in 30 seconds.
Textiles is definitely a backbone sector. I mean, with a huge amount of employment. And I think moving from fragmentation to integration and informal structure of skill development to a formal excellence, the sector is going to highly be competitive and contribute meaningfully to the national economic agenda and Viksit Bharat.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That's
Thank
it
you.
in this edition of Viewpoint. See you again next time.